The knife is a Spyderco Para 3. It's the next evolution of the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. The steel used on the knife is CPM S30V. S30V is a great user steel. It's widely known, widely used, and a lot of people like it very much. What you read about in the history of S30V, if you look into it, is that it was developed by Chris Reeve and the folks over at Crucible. What you don't typically hear about is the other people that were involved. People like Bill Harsey and probably Phil Wilson. As I understand it from talking with Bill Harsey, he was in on the beginnings of the steel with Chris Reeve several years before it came out. In fact, as I understand it, there was a whole list of knife makers who were asked for feedback on the steel in the developmental stages. If that's the case, then whoever's idea that was to ask for feedback from multiple people, I think it was a brilliant move to ask for peer review, to bring other people in on it, to help make a better end product. I think that that's the way that it should be, and for all of us in the knife community to benefit from it. It was Chris Reeve who suggested the composition to Dick Barber over at Crucible. So, all credit where it's due. I'm not taking anything away from Chris Reeve. I saw that the knife was going to be coming out, and I was interested in it. I knew that the handle was going to be smaller and the blade was going to be smaller. I wasn't sure how I would like it. I was on the groups, and I hadn't placed an order yet anywhere. And River's Edge Cutlery had a post up about pre-order spots, and I went ahead and got in on it. When my number came around, they contacted me through email. I went ahead and ordered the knife. 2 days later, it showed up. There was no problem there. Very well, maybe doing business with them again. So, in getting the knife, I wanted to check the ergonomics of the knife. I wanted to check the function of it, the action of it. See if using the compression lock with a smaller handle and a smaller blade, see how that worked for me. I also wanted to check the edge. I noticed in getting this that the edge was ground very well. The edge bevel was ground very well. It was very even, and it was very sharp. It wasn't hair-whittling sharp, but it was a good edge. But I thought that I would put it through some use. You hear so much about burnt edges and overheated edges, especially when it comes to S30V. So I went ahead and started in on wood, working with a block of wood that I had set aside for making straps. I started in on it, and I was being fairly mean, fairly rough, cutting through it. The edge geometry did fine, and the ergonomics did fine. Now, this was wearing gloves, but really there was no problems at all. I was happy with the way that the knife was performing. It would have done better with a sharper edge, a more acute angle, but it did just fine. I mean, no, not really any complaints there. I did work with it without a gloved hand for a bit, and like I said, I was being fairly mean. I mean, I wasn't. There was even 1 or 2 knots that I went after just to see what would happen, just to see if I could get any rolling or microchipping. I didn't experience any of that. The knife was still shaving sharp by the time I was done with that piece of wood, and I cut a fairly good amount of that wood. After that, I started in on rope, fairly thin manila rope. I worked with that for a bit. The edge was struggling with it due to the, manila rope is fairly difficult to cut through in this style. You really need an extremely sharp edge to go through it without any problems. After the manila rope, I moved on to cardboard. Cut a decent amount of cardboard. There was no problems there. The knife seemed to be functioning good. And throughout the cutting, I was moving the clip to different orientations, as far as tip up, tip down, just to see if it would give me problems, just to see if the size of the handle and the clip being involved would be an issue, and it wasn't. The knife was a little bit stiff out of the box. It was breaking in that first day, and I figured doing the cutting with it would help. I added some nano oil to it, and that helped a lot. So when the cutting was done, I figured that I would go ahead and resharpen the knife. So I started in on coarse diamond DMT diafold, worked through that, and made my way down through fine, extra fine, and extra fine. After the diafold sharpeners, I jumped to a Spyderco double stuff, working with the medium stone and then moving on to the fine stone. After that, I moved on to a Spyderco ultrafine bench stone. After working with the ultrafine bench stone, I moved on to strops, starting on wood strops at a 3 micron. Made my way down through 1.5 micron and then moved on to diamond sprays, again on wood, 1 micron, half micron, and I moved on to leather strops with diamond sprays, starting with 1/4 micron, making my way down to 0.005 micron. The edge came up beautiful. It was how I wanted it. S30V will take a very sharp edge. There's not really any complaints there. Sharpens very well. The burr isn't too much of an issue. So that was good. I'm happy with this knife. I find myself liking it more and more as time goes on. The action has gotten very smooth. Like I said, out of box it was a little bit stiff, but you know, within 24 hours and a little bit of nano oil, it had really smoothed out. It fits very good in hand. I don't really have any complaints about ergonomics. It feels very good. It is very small. I was a little bit curious about the thickness of the blade and if I would like it. I mean, to be honest, I really wasn't sure if I would like this at all going into it and getting it. I wasn't sure if it would be too small for me and if I simply wouldn't prefer it, but I find myself liking it more and more. The stoutness of the blade, the thickness of the blade, you know, looking at it, people are comparing it to a Delica, and the Delica does have a thinner blade, and that's one of the things that I like about it. I wasn't sure about the thickness of this blade, but now that I've gotten it and I see the function of it, the blade thickness makes sense. I mean, I don't think it, you know, I don't know if it was so much done to be stout as much as it was done for function, and it doesn't seem to get in the way. S30V is a fine steel. I mean, Spyderco uses it on their PM2 and their military on the standard models. It does just fine. There's nothing wrong with that steel. I'm interested, though, to see this model, this platform, using super steels, using steels with higher wear resistance. I think that 10V would be great on this model. Nobody's going to be using this for batoning or anything like that. The blades, it's just too small. I mean, you could, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense not to shoot for that. But 10V is an extremely strong steel. It's not high toughness, but it is very strong. It would be really interesting to see that on this model, or something in that class, something in an A11 class steel. So I like it. I like what Spyderco did with it. Like I said, I find myself enjoying it more and more as time goes after first getting it in hand. So we'll see where Spyderco goes with the alternative steels for this model that are offered in limited quantities.